Yo, it's your boy TTK. We're back with another video. Today, we're gonna be reacting to KingKrabz's latest video, the Ultimate Monotype tier list, and we're essentially gonna see how much I agree with it because I always like seeing other people's opinions regarding the monotype metas, and I just kind of want to see their mindset going into each meta game. Now, KingKrabz opened up, the floodgates for if we disagree or agree with his monotype tier list. So I'm going to do this in video form because I also have a channel and I need to upload some videos in it. So let's get that out of the way now. This video of his is an hour and 8 minutes long. My reaction is probably going to be roughly around that length because he goes pretty in depth about this. I've already started watching a little bit of it, but like we've gone through about a couple of types already, and there's 18 of them, so we're going to be doing that today. If you guys enjoy this one, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Join the kingdom today. We do a lot of Pokemon content, monotype, draft league, all of that sort of stuff. So if you think you'll enjoy that sort of content, let me know down below. Either way, let's get this in. Is the video gonna cut off? Yeah, the video's gonna cut off. If I go full screen it, or I just do it like this, I don't know. If I zoom in ever so slightly, again, I'm just trying to find the most optimal way of doing this, of course. But yeah, let's see what KingKrabz has to say. I don't know when he starts speaking about bug, but yeah, let's just see bug at first.
With against this type, like maybe they have tools that are really good against you. Maybe you struggle to break through the defensive core, but overall, no, I wouldn't. Tough. These are ones you've seen, like, oh, I not list talk about that bug. So bug is going to be, in my opinion, a pretty good type. I would put it probably A tier.
Yeah, so like the first thing, like bug in A tier is like kind of insane. I'm not gonna lie. Of course, like I know everyone like that plays regular Gen 9 monotype. Because by the way, this is for NatDex Monotype. I'll make that pretty obvious in the title, just in case anyone's thinking how is bug A tier in Gen 9 monotype. But either way, yeah, bug in A tier NatDex is just crazy. I think bug is definitely an overhyped type, in my opinion. Like, it does have some nice matchups, and in that decks, basically every single type has better options because there's more mons in it, unlike in like SV, for example. But Bugging 80, like he's gonna be speaking about the matchup situation for each type rather than just saying, oh, bug is 80 because you have some of the strongest Pokemon like Mega Pinsir, Sizzle, Volcarona, for example. Cleavor really made this type better going from Generation 8 to Generation 9, all of that good stuff. Like, he actually talks about the matchups, and I think that's where I'll have issues with certain things, like if he says something I disagree with. But let's see how that goes.
Not S tier. I'd love to see it develop to S tier.
We would all enjoy bug to be in S tier, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not gonna happen.
It's A tier, and let me explain why. So matchup wise, I think notable ones are Dark. It's favorable.
Yeah, so he does like this, like winning, favorable, unfavorable, losing. Doesn't necessarily do neutral matchups, which I do think are important, because like if a matchup is to be neutral, is more of they have the favorable tools to handle that type, but they also have the unfavorable side of things if the opposing type does use their favorable tools against. Like, it's a vice versa sort of situation. And just doing it as like, I mean, it's not really black and white because they're still winning and losing like directly. Like, certain types will just lose to certain types. Like, Rock is never beating ground in any circumstance. Or like, even then, like Omastar doesn't do anything. Like, you really have to tech your Rock team most of the time in order to beat ground, and you're not gonna be making a team overall to try and handle all of your matchups to one trick a certain matchup, unless it's a tournament setting where you're like, I 100% know my opponent's bringing ground for whatever reason. I do want to use Rock though, but like tech my Rock team to be like the most like anti-ground team ever. Like, no one does that. So realistically, Rock versus ground is a very losing matchup for Rock indeed. So stuff like that. But yeah, we'll continue.
I wouldn't say it's a winning matchup. You have things like Sableye and Moltres, which can wall out your bug types and like be super effective against them, especially in Moltres. I think bug doesn't run the most bug style, but overall it does like the dark.
Like dark versus bug, like nothing wrong with that, to be honest. Like, it's definitely favorable in terms of bug for sure, but obviously dark has the tools. Like Galarian Moltres, like if that gets up in agility, what's bug doing? Like, what's actually bug doing? Like, I don't even want to say that's even, because like some teams won't be running Moltres, so it's more of a favorable situation for Bug if they're not running Moltres, and they're always going to be running Mega Sableye. But yeah, like Moltres just gets up in agility and boom, like Bug is finished. Like it's stuff like that. And to be fair, you only get one Z move. Plus like Hurricane has awful accuracy, so you could get some like RNG there. But most of the time, 70% of the time, you should be landing your Hurricanes in order to deal with the Pokemon on Bug. Anyway.
Matchup fairly nicely. Now, unfortunately, it loses to Electric.
Yep, that definitely loses to Electric. Like, there's like Regieleki just comes in and 6-0s everybody. Like, bro is faster than every speed control option on the type. All you have to do is get Coco in, make sure terrain is up, rising voltage, spam Bug, and they get 6-0'd. Very obvious.
It just has nothing for Regieleki. Like Alolan Raichu, Rising Voltage Spam, or just
not even like Alolan Raichu is just overkill.
Which is one of your best options. Buzzwole is
like Mega Sizzle's not doing anything versus Zapdos plus Rotom Wash. Like honestly, not like it's such a hard matchup for Bug. I'm not gonna lie.
Really ineffective against it. So yeah, unfortunately, it loses to Electric. I would say it's pretty good against Fairy. I mean, like Fairy does beat things like Buzzwole, but
I would say the Fairy matchup is like I wouldn't say it's like even. I'm not gonna lie, it's even. I wouldn't say Bug has necessarily the advantage because Mega Diancie, like Mega Diancie versus Bug is also just like hard, but it depends on what you have because like obviously Sizzle should be on most Bug teams, to be fair. So Fairy does have to watch out for that, to be fair. But like you position right and like you kind of like play around with Klefki and stuff. Like you just kind of do it. Like it depends. I think it's a skill matchup most of the time. But Bug, I would say Bug is like 51 to 49 favored, to be fair, because like Bug realistically has no switch-ins to Mega Diancie. It's just that simple. Like Mega Diancie comes in and gets a kill every time. Unless like they try and play around Sizzle, Diamond, Storm and stuff, but all you have to do is click Mystical Fire and Sizzle's dead. Like again, I think it's more it's slightly in Bug's favor, but hardly in my opinion.
Volcarona's quite good against it. Caesar's good against it.
Like Volcarona, like to a certain extent, yeah, but like all you have to do is kind of like it depends on the fairy comp as well. Like if you're going Azu, like what does Bug do versus Azu? Like what? Like you kind of go Reflect, Light Screen. Volcarona's not doing any damage. Like the only way if you're running Azu that you lose is if like Flame Body procs on you. Other than that, like Buzzwole doesn't have anything to hit Azu super effectively, especially if you're behind a Reflect and your Z Belly Drum. Like is looking kind of long for Bug. Like I feel like KingKrabz kind of forgets about certain Pokemon and certain types, but like even then, like I'm just saying off-head, like if you had this stuff written down, like you'll know 100% sure like what common mons there are. Not to say KingKrabz doesn't know what's being ran on Fairy, for example. Like he definitely knows Azumarill's a Pokemon on Fairy. It's just more of like maybe when he was making the video, like he didn't think about certain Pokemon in certain matchups. But it's the same thing for me. Like if I don't remember certain Pokemon, someone will definitely tell me, and I'll look back and I'll be like, damn, I forgot to mention X Mon on Y type, for example. But yeah.
To an extent, Cleaver's pretty nice too. It just has some good options. You have Poison Bugs
like Cleaver's nice versus Fairy because Stone Axe means you can just like you don't have to waste time setting up hazards versus Fairy because Magic Bounce Mega Diancie isn't gonna bounce them back, and stuff like that.
If you want to run things like Scolipede, it's an option. I don't necessarily
run I haven't seen Scolipede at all this gen. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to keep pausing the video because this is gonna go very slowly. But Scolipede is like I've seen like one. Fair enough. If you're running Scolipede, yeah, Fairy's gonna have a tough time. But I don't know. It's still kind of like Bug still has like the 1% advantage.
Inherently a bad Pokemon. You got things like Fortress as well, which are pretty.
Yeah, I would say Fortress is pretty annoying for Fairy, but again, Mega Diancie is really
favorable.
Fighting
is quite nice.
That's a like fighting. Like I'm really trying to think about that because Mega Pinsir Bug, yeah, like fighting's in for a tough time, but at the same time you have Coma on fighting and. Like, there's no switching for Clangorous Soul Blaze on Bug unless you're running Rabombi, and that's not really a mon that you're running. because like you're mainly running Galvantula for the water matchup, and you also get webs at the same time. Like there isn't really much reason for Rabombi to be run on Fairy, sure, not on Bug really. So Como gets up a Clangor Soul Blaze. You maintain rocks with Great Tusk because Great Tusk does resist Bug, like, and is bulky enough to handle all of Bug's physical attackers very easily. And then, yeah, what does Bug do to Clangor Soul Blaze Como? Not much. So I would even say Bug's favorite. This is a very even matchup in my opinion, not favorable, very even.
Really good trade. You have a few flying type attacks to use, like if you want to run dual wing beat Caesar, for example, is an option.
Yeah, I guess dual wing beat. Yep. I mean that'll give Bug some. That'll give Fighting some trouble. That's for sure. But there's still like Iron Hands, which fair enough. Sizzle can just 1v1 that very easily because it has recovery, and Iron Hands doesn't. But you know, just mons like that.
Not the most viable necessarily, but it's an option. Things like Psychic, Quiver Dance, Volcarona are very good against it. You have plenty of hazard.
Yeah, you have AV Iron Hand. Like, sure, like you have to be running like Psychic Z move to like threaten Iron Hands. Like if it's Assault Vest, and even then, if it's not chipped down, I really don't think Iron Hands is dying to +1 Shattered Psyche. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it is just because it's Iron Hands, and then you just get rock slided. So yeah, like again, it's a very even matchup. I don't think Bug has any particular advantage. I'll even lean towards Fighting having more of the advantage just because Bug has no Como or answers.
Hazard stacking, which Fighting doesn't really appreciate, doesn't always often run the most defoggers or spinners or kind of hazard control, so it definitely does not like that. In theory,
Bug also doesn't like rocks. Like that's one thing. Like Bug really doesn't like rocks. You're not running defog half the time because like one of Bug's best strategies is just using sticky webs on certain teams. And I'm not trying to say you need sticky webs on Bug, but like the teams that rely on that are not running like defog, for example, is going to be like Rapid Spin Fortress or something. And fair enough, it does spin versus Fighting quite reliably, but yeah, you just have to handle the hazards. I guess stuff like that is why like Bug is definitely held back.
I think
So
should be like a losing matchup or unfavorable, but I think Araquanid and Cleaver and just the amount of hazards.
Fire is favorable. Fire is definitely
quite a lot of
favorable.
trouble,
Like
so-
you have counterplay with Cleaver or Raconid, sure, but I still think Fire has the advantage because you're still just generally overwhelmed by Mega Charizard Y and especially the Charizard X. Like both of those guys apply the pressure like nothing like Bug can even handle. Even Water Bubble, like Calc Flare Blitz damage, like a +1, you're still probably getting 2-hit KO'd.
Consider Fire favorite and like neutral.
And then what does Araquanid do back to Charizard X? Like his neutral to water plus sun being up equals, you know, disaster. And then there's also Victini. Like but like is definitely under Fire is very, very, very like favorable versus Bug.
Line I would say is unfavorable. It's not losing
Yeah.
anymore. I think the last generation it was
It's not entirely losing. I'd still
which I don't understand. I think it's like an S tier Bug.
I'd still give Flying the thing.
So I do think it swings the favor in Bug's favor slightly to unfavorable as opposed to losing. Ghost is unfavorable. If Ghost gets the rocks down and you can't remove them, Bug really hates that. Now
Thing is, I'm trying to think about like I guess yeah, Corsola G plus Goldengo. Like hazard stacking Ghost gives Bug a very hard time and stuff like that. Like unless you're running like Lockix Bug, which no one really does that or is a very uncommon mon. Not to say he's necessarily bad, it's just that the type doesn't necessarily need it. Like he's really only good versus like Dark and Ghost, to be fair.
you do have plenty of hazard spam, but they have like magic and stabilize, so yeah. Even winning.
Grass is definitely winning.
But just resisting earthquake is
Ground, I don't know, cause like Drill Sand, if you manage to get up like a Swords Dance, but I guess like Boswell is still bulky enough to take whatever Drill has, and it really depends on his Z move. Like Scarf Boswell probably isn't taking +2 Steel Z, but it probably takes Rockium Z quite well, and then just Revenge kills Excadrill back. So again, it's not a matchup I see too often. I'm definitely forgetting some Pokemon as well, so you know I'll just leave Ground alone. To be fair,
against it, like plenty of strong mons. Ice,
Ice is winning. I'm not gonna lie, like Mega Sizzle's just cooking Ice.
So much in Bug's favor.
I mean, Octazort can be scary. Like I'll respect that Octazort can be very scary, but like Sizzle is bulking off, and stuff
Strong
happens.
opinion on normal with this thing. Poison is slightly unfavorable.
Normal, I'd say normal wins was quite favorable. Like I've faced bug many times and I've never really been worried. To be fair, like the steel types on bug definitely are annoying, but once they're gone, is just an easy game.
It's kind of an annoying fight type to fight.
Poison versus bug. Haven't seen it enough. Poison should be favored. To be fair,
Psychic for much the same reasons like Dark and Grass.
Psychic. Yeah, Psychic's interesting. Like Victini, Z Celebrate, Jirachi probably give Bug a very, very hard time. I would say it's another even matchup. Like Dark and Psychic are definitely very even matchups. Yeah, fighting, like I think fighting's unfavorable. So like even with this board of matchups right now, I like even that I don't even think bug is A. Like comparing to the other types that like we've yet to talk about, yeah, nah, I do believe that bug is definitely a B type. Definitely not C though. I think bug is definitely more consistent to use than grass and rock for sure. Arguably poison, it really just depends. But yeah, definitely not. I think we've discussed it more enough. Because like there's so many, like you have 17 other matchups to worry about plus like the mirror matchup. Water, I'll just say now, water never loses to bug under any circumstance. Yes, Galvantula is a Pokemon, but you can play around it. Rain also gives bug a huge amount of trouble, and like other Pokemon on the type, like bug just can't keep up with water. And yeah,
Stab, and it does have.
We'll move on to like dark now.
So let me just kind of remove these actually.
So dark in AT I agree with. Dark has some crazy Pokemon right now. Yeah, dark has some crazy Pokemon, so not surprised it's AT.
Again, kind of loses slightly to bug. I just explained that a minute ago. It loses to electric. No, sorry, it beats electric. I'd say slightly wins electric, yeah. Because you have things like Lu, Roaring Moon, dual screens. Any kind of offensive teams do not appreciate dual screens, and I think.
Yeah, I think both styles of dark do have good matchups versus electric, like dual screen setup. I don't think bug can keep up though. Not bug, electric can't keep up, but it's more of iron hands as well. Yeah, to be fair, there's iron hands, but Mega Sableye can handle that quite reliably. So I'll give Dark a pass on that. Definitely closer to even matchup, but I think Dark has the slight edge just because you can go like Tinglu, balance, and yeah, they don't like that Pokemon too much, like especially like if it's running Ruination. Rotom Wash isn't doing, like Rotom Wash is like free at KO in Tinglu, or even like a roll to free at KO with Hydro Pump if it's defensive, which most of them are. So yeah,
for that reason alone, Dark would definitely,
I'll say Dark has the edge,
make its way here into like favorable. Fire, I think for much the same reason. Electric.
Fire is another interesting one. Like I think Fire is kind of mid. Is like my opinion on Fire is like you kind of just have to pray you get the matchups because like it has a lot of strong mons. Like don't get me wrong, Fire has some of the strongest mons in the game. But I don't know, like it never really feels that top of a type because it's very reliant on weather. For example, like you're very reliant on sun. Most of the time, you can't even run heavy duty boots on your sun setter because you're gonna have less sun turns for your abusers. It does have like a decent defensive core like Skeledirge and Volcanion, for example, and you also have mons like Volcarona and Megazards. But yeah, it just feels like a sort of fish type, to be honest. And fair enough, like Fire can beat Steel quite reliably. Does not beat Water under any circumstances. Like the only top types you can beat reliably Steel, and I guess you can beat Fighting. Like it depends. Like Clanger Soul Blaze again, Komodo, like Fire doesn't like that. Yeah, like you have to respect the Komodo, bro. Anyway,
very similar types in playstyle. I think Electric's way better than Fire, but I think they're very similar types in playstyle, and for that reason I put Fire here as well. I think it also beats Steel. Steel kind of.
Again, that's another one I have to think about. Because you can kind of hazard stack on Dark, which they don't really like, and but at the same time, something like sub MP Hydreigon solo Steel very easily. So I would say Dark is probably favored.
It does not
Yeah,
appreciate.
for sure. Like sub MP Hydreigon versus Steel, like bro, like that just 6-0s. Like it just 6-0s.
It not being able to wall its attacks. It has plenty of like Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Fiery Wrath is really good. Dual
But
Scream.
I would say Steel's defensive core is annoying unless you are running like Hydreigon just makes it easy win. Like to be perfectly honest, but yeah.
Steel doesn't necessarily appreciate. It has decent access to hazards in Tinglu, though personally I think Assault Vest Tinglu is better, but that's not here nor there. I think it just has plenty of options for Steel. Obviously, it loses pretty badly to fighting. I won't say it's a losing. I'd say it's unfair.
Mm, um, I think it depends on the matchup. Like you could play like if it's dark balance, like yeah, just say goodbye, bro. Like Kobo comes in, Iron Valiant comes in, Mega Gallade comes in. Like dark never wins with those three demons on fighting. Like never wins. Even Great Tusk is able to handle other physical dark attackers as well. Though Weavile is probably kind of annoying, but again, you even have Iron Hands. Like I think it's a complete losing matchup for Dark. Like I don't really see any way they really get out of the gulag in that one. To be fair, like even Galarian Moltres is like your best win con, or maybe you test out Jugglist for a day or two. But even then, Assault Vest and Hands completely handles Jugglist very easily, and that one has no way of boosting its special attack. For the reason why they didn't give it Nasty Plot, we'll never know. But yeah, fighting just has way too many offensive threats for Dark to keep up with. Obviously, he's a type disadvantage as well, so we're not gonna act like that. Like Dark should win that matchup. Like fighting should always win.
Favorable because Sableye and Moltres are
Like Sableye, like come on now. Like sure you can't taunt Mega Sableye, but like what does Sableye again is a mon that just doesn't do anything to Como once it gets up a Clangorous Soul Blaze. Dark also has no switch into Clangorous Soul Blaze unless you have Grimmsnarl on your team, and like those are more offensive style teams. Against like more dark, bulky offense or balanced teams, just like straight up lose the fighting. Plus there's Valiant. Like what else do I have to say? There's Valiant.
it's so good against fighting and can reverse. It can be quite tough.
And it's crazy to me how KingKrabz's even bring up Valiant. Like Valiant's not banned in this tier. Like what? Like fight that's not even unfavorable. It's just straight losing.
Yeah, it definitely wins against Ghost.
Yep,
Like
Ghost has no shot versus Dark. Like let's be honest. On to the next
Ghost.
type.
A lot of these I don't have a strong opinion. Like Poison's kind of weird. Like I think it.
Yeah, I can't say I've really faced a Dark versus Poison matchup. I do think Banded Weavile can overwhelm Poison's defensive core very easily though. Like Poison, when Poison's running like some stooly regen core, like some really balancy like sort of shit, like yeah, Dark can overwhelm it. But like there's still Sneasler in the picture, which you have to be careful about. But I think Mandibuzz plus like Mega Sableye can handle Sneasler very easily. So I'll say Dark is favored in that match. I'm not necessarily like winning instantly, but definitely favored. I don't think I don't think Poison can keep up with Banded Weavile. Like let's be honest now, is very hard.
Can and can't beat it in a way, if that makes sense.
Like you just knock off spam everything. Even if Mega Venusaur is Mega Evolved, like sure, like I guess it depends. Like Mandibuzz, Weavile, probably like you have to kind of deal with Venusaur before Mega Evolves, and that's very hard because Venusaur forces switches and can just Mega Evolve to survive most things anyway. So yeah, but if it's like Galarian Moltres plus Weavile, I think Poison just gets overwhelmed very easily.
As in, it depends what tools.
And then Mega Sableye on his own to handle Sneasler, that's more than enough, to be honest.
Both the teams use. Actually, I think it loses normal.
Normal, I'm the normal connoisseur, guys. Like Dark losers, like it just straight up losers. Like your main defensive core just get folded by Megalopony. Is there more to be said there? To be honest, so I'd say normal's loser matchup. Not even unfavorable, just straight up losing.
Very annoying. Beware, Lapony.
Dark also just can't really break P2 Blissey Chansey cause at all. To be honest, you also have Ursaluna, Scarf Diggersby, mons that pretty much overwhelm the mons in Dark very easily. So yeah,
Porygon Z, depending on what type it can normal. Bad matchup for Fairy.
Fairy, yeah. That's an obvious one. Like since Oras, I don't think Dark has really had a good time versus Fairy. Even when Oras was like Fairy's worst gen, arguably, because he hardly had any good fairies.
It has options. Count blades and stuff.
Psychic. Now, Psychic is I don't know, like I've seen so many Dark versus Psychics in NatDex Monotype. I've played that so many times, and like I think it's definitely a skill matchup more than even or favorable or unfavorable. It's definitely skill. You definitely need the right tools on Psychic in order to even have a winning chance. Like not running Mega Gallade, for example. Like you definitely are losing that. Um, stuff like that. But yeah, Mega Gallade makes it very even. Tapu Lele makes it very even. You just kind of have to get rid of Alolan Muck, to be honest. And once that is done, Lele just kind of sweeps. But yeah, it's definitely a skill matchup.
There is definitely.
Because what's the Alolan Muck switching on Psychic? Like Jirachi? Like, no, you can't even switch into knockoff. Like, yeah, so definitely a skill matchup. They have to make sure like their key mons don't die on dark in order to win.
Now that said, it's still not in my dreams to me. I think dark, but the next type here we have dragon.
So he didn't continue talking about the other matchups, to be fair. Yeah, the rest are pretty semi-neutral, to be fair. Like dark should be beating grass pretty easily. Flying's probably neutral. Dragon, I guess Weave Out definitely makes that a bit harder. Hydreigon as well. And Rock is Rock. Like I'm not gonna spend too much time on Rock. And Water is probably kind of favored as well, like Rain or just like some stooly shit with like Dondozo. You should be fine versus Dark. So yeah, Dark has some matchups here and there. I do agree it's A tier. Some of the matchups are like questionable here, but yeah, I do agree with Dark's placement on the thing. Alright, I'm back. I had to AFK a little bit. So put Dragon in A tier. Yeah, it's hard because I think Dragon's like low A or like high B in my opinion. For sure. We'll see what he has to say.
The tier list I think is a lot of strong types. So dragon like it beats electric easy.
Easy. Fairs. I think Dragon is definitely favored in the electric matchup. I'll say that.
Beats fire easy. It beats grass easy.
Fire. Yep. Grass. Yep.
Doesn't beat water as easily, but it's still favorable.
Favorable. Arguably even in my opinion because like they don't like Greninja, but I think Hisuian and Guja really changed the dynamic for the type. Like before Hisuian and Guja, Dragon was definitely a guaranteed B type in my opinion. Like you had no shot versus Fairy, Water kind of just clicked Specs Ice Beam Greninja on you, and like you had to sack them on every time. But some of the other matchups were definitely harder, like Ice. But Hisuian and Gudra really just saved this type in general. If we didn't get Hisuian and Gudra, we're gonna get our Chaladon as well, which is gonna be probably a more offensive one more than defensive. But Gudra's defensive utility has saved Dragon for sure. Because I hated running Dragon pre Pokemon Home because like you just instantly lost to like Fairy. But now like that matchup is actually playable. So yeah, thank you Hisuian Gudra for making Dragon actually decent. But yeah, definitely more of an even matchup. Just need to get rid of Hisuian Gudra on Water side, but I think it's like a 52-48 in Dragon's favor.
Has like because water has some ice coverage to take care of.
Also, Azu annoys Water. Not like it's still a mon that exists on Water, more seen on Fairy, but Z Belly Drum Azu kind of gives Dragon a tough time, but it like you can beat the defensive core, but like fair enough. Like not having screens does make you more revenge killable with other mons like Hydreigon for example. Not Hydreigon. Hydreigon can't even hit you neutrally that hard. But yeah, is another one Dragon has to worry about, to be fair.
Dragons, but it's definitely still a favorable matchup. Loses very badly to Psych Fairy. I think for that same logic,
Fairy's definitely losing, but like it's definitely easier now. Easier like to kind of outplay if you're the better player, like by a noticeable margin. Because Hisuian and Gudra just spams heavy slam versus everybody and they die. So yeah, you definitely have to play around it. Even though Klefki plus Tapu Bulu, like if that's like behind screens, then like Hisuian and Gudra's just gonna get CC'd on. But yeah, it depends. But yeah, Fairy should still be winning that most of the time.
That Psychic didn't lose so badly to Dark is the same logic I put for Dragon actually kind of struggling with Psychic.
Does I don't know, man. I guess like Mega Gallade balance probably gives Dragon a very hard time because it just clicks. It threatens Hisuian Gudra, triple axles, the rest. All straight CCs depending on what you need. You don't have Dragapult or in NatDex Dragon because it's broken. But yeah, yeah, I could say it struggles with Psychic for sure. Yeah, definitely does, especially if it's like some like, cause the thing is, it's really only Mega Gallade that really threatens much on Psychic. I guess opposing Latias, like opposing like Mega Latios and stuff, but like Dragon has Mega Ult for those, so I think it's like a 55-45 situation in favor of like Psychic, but Dragon can definitely still win that one.
In a way, it struggles a bit with anything else. Ice, yeah,
Ice. I mean, yeah, I'll say ice.
definitely no
It
Scythe
has
up as
to.
well. I think
Like you
Scythe
have G Dom, you have Weavile, Arctazol, Baxcalibur. Yeah, nah, ice getting behind Veil just sets up on Dragon and wins.
struggle. Poison's again's a weird one. It depends how you build it.
Yeah, definitely a more builder thing because like Chomp, Mega Chomp Dragon should win that every single time. Because you just set up a SD, get up like you EQ everybody. Galarian Weezing would, give Dragon some trouble if you decide to go that, but most of the time it's like Mega Venusaur plus Crobat. But like Galarian Weezing is still a very much valid Pokemon on the type, just it's not as common as before.
I feel like poison overall
No, I didn't like
has a
because
decent time against dragon because like toxic spikes are really good.
yeah, I guess you get off spikes, but I think it's more of like poison just getting overwhelmed by Dragon's Breakers unless you have Galarian Weezing on your team. If you have it on your team, slightly easier. If you don't have it on your team, you just kind of get overwhelmed by the Breakers.
Good, it can haze away at any dragon dance attempt.
Neutral
It can
matchup,
bunker down
potentially.
against
It depends
its
on the
choice
comps.
users. For that reason, I put poison slightly unfavorable. What else do we have here? Rock, yeah, it beats rock
Most types are beating rock, guys. Like all of the good types are beating rock, so you know.
easily. You have things like Komo-o, Garch,
Como got like Como just solos. Like no, maybe ifs or
it
buts about that one.
can even beat rock like heavily.
Yeah, no, it's a completely winning matchup. Like I don't see how Rock has a shot, to be honest, at all.
It would. No, because it depends. If you're not Amistar,
I mean, Mega Dancy, but AV Gudra just like I'm pretty sure AV Gudra takes like a 4-8 KO from Earth Power. So like
then I think this can easily win. But most people don't run Amistar.
Star still doesn't even beat Hisuian Gudra. Like I guess White Herb is annoying, and like Draco's not gonna KO from full HP. But like even then, I don't even think AV Gudra's like getting like 2-hit KO'd. I might be completely wrong. Maybe I'm overestimating Gudra's bulk, but it is very bulky on the special defensive side. But
definitely has a favorable matchup against
I still think it's a complete winning matchup. I don't see Rock ever beating Dragon.
Fighting, I think it's pretty good against two. Like it has plenty
Fighting.
of flying options. It has some strong psychic options like Latios. You have
Yeah, I'd say Dragon is definitely favored though. You do have to watch out for the opposing Como because like Como these days are just running bulletproof instead of soundproof. So it just means that like whoever wins the Como speed tie is just gonna clanger Soul Blaze. But yeah, start the like things like that, and then also like Mega Ult does give fighting a very hard time. So I'd say Dragon wins.
compared to fighting types. So for that reason, I put fighting there. I'm unsure about steel. Personally,
Steel. I think Dragon can win because Como just very much like clanger soul blazes and threatens everything. Like Heatran can't beat it, Goldengo can't beat it. Um yeah, Steel is just overwhelmed. You taunt Celesteela and just 1v1 it as well. Taunt Corviknight 1v1 it. Like Steel's defensive core just gets taunted by Como, and then the offensive threats just get killed by Flamethrower and Drain Punch. So I'll say Dragon
good,
beats it.
but it's also viable for like both types. So
No, I wouldn't even say Dragon's definitely favored.
sure.
This like is definitely
Depends how you
favored.
build them. For that reason, I think I'll leave it in neutral.
Yeah, again, like Komo's not on every single Dragon team. I'd say that like if you're not running Como, then um It's probably a bit harder for Dragon to get the win on that, but I think Como is such a good Pokemon on Dragon anyway. Most common Dragon teams are running Como, and yeah, Steel doesn't beat that very easily.
Again, continuing the trend, I think Electric.
Like, not every single matchup is getting discussed. I mean, I'll just say my 2 cents. Should beat Bug. Depends on the Dark team, of course, but it should. If there's no Grimstyle, I think I mentioned it when they were talking about Dark, but Como just kind of goes in. Dragon versus Dragon, like that's just whatever comp is like having Mega Altaria or not having it, and if you both have it, then it's like Threat Dragon basically, Mono Threat Dragon. Flying. I think Dragon is favored by Excalibur. You have Como as well. Oh, well, not Como, to be fair. Chomp as well. Like Chomp with Rockium Z or Mega Chomp with like +2 Stone Edge. Ghost as well. You should be Ghost. Ground. Like Dragon has better matchups than I give it credit for, you know. So it might be like it probably deserves it. It has better matchups than I expected. The only ones that are really hard losers to is like Fairy, to be honest.
Bug. Better than Dark.
Bug at the top of A is still insane to me. I can't agree with that sentiment whatsoever.
Speaking of better than Dark, I think we have
Electric is definitely A tier, like very easily.
So let's kind of talk about these matchups here. Electric, anything that doesn't have a ground type pretty much loses to Electric. So fighting,
Or like anything that doesn't have a ground type, but one of fighting's most common Pokemon is Great Tusk. I still think Electric is favored very much versus fighting, but like, yeah, nah, you can't be forgetting about Great Tusk.
Fire, it's favorable. I wouldn't say it wins just because Fire does have things like Zard X can be quite annoying.
I mean, Zard, like Electric still beats Fire. Like, you're not running Camerupt, so like you kind of still just Volt Switch on everyone. Like, you know, as long as Electric Terrain is up, Zard is still, you just Volt Switch out on Zard. Go like, because the thing is, if you allow Zardex to get a Dragon Dance up, fair, like you're in some trouble. I'm not gonna lie, you're in some trouble. But like it depends on your team as well. Regieleki plus Raichu Lola, like you kind of can just Psychic Mega Zardex and like just chip it down eventually, or just use Rotom and chip it down because you're still surviving like +1 Dragon Claw. If it's Zard Y, like Fire just loses. Like Fire, you're very favorable versus Fire.
Corona if it sets up.
Which, to be fair, KingKrabz's does put in the favorable section, so maybe my waffling there was unnecessary.
Very volatile matchup, but it's a volatile matchup, I think, in favor of Electric. Volatile.
Yeah, like Electric should beat Fire like 70-30 in my opinion, like way higher than a lot of the other even matchups I discussed earlier in the video. But yeah, it's like 70-30. Like it's dependent on if there's a Zardex. If there's no Zardex, you just win.
Beats Bug.
Beats Bug. Yeah, you just like Regieleki outspeeds all the options.
Kind of loses to Dark.
Yeah, Dark. I would say kind of troublesome. Dragon. Yeah, Hisuian Gudra does not make that job easier.
Beats Fairy.
Beats Fairy. Yeah, it should beat Fairy. A lack of ground type hurts a lot, and it's just a Volt Switch. You get trapped in the Vortex basically. Like, you have to keep Bulu healthy, but that's not happening because Regieleki just Volt Switches into Zapdos. Zapdos Volt Switches, or just raw Hurricanes. You can defog the screens. Like, it's very hard for Fairy to win that. I wouldn't even say it's favorable because I'm struggling to see, like, win cons on Fairy that can even beat Electric with a combination of, like, Rotom Wash, Iron Hands, you know, Zapdos, for example, is very hard. I'll say Fairy is definitely just a winning matchup for Electric. Flying is favorable. Like, obviously, you can go Lando T plus Thunderous T, but like you can still kind of outplay around it. Iron Hands can like threaten everything on Flying pretty much with like Ice Punch plus Rock Slide,
but doesn't win.
Or even just Volt Switch in general.
Loses to Grass.
Yeah, loses to Grass. Like Mega V, you're not really breaking Mega Venusaur. Like, especially like Bramble Grass, which I do rate because Wind Rider makes you immune to Heat Wave and Hurricane from Zapdos, so you just hard wall that, and then you kind of just threaten the rest of the mons on Electric pretty hard.
Loses to Ground. Ground has Gravity.
Yeah, Electric versus Ground is very lost matchup.
So yeah, you're gonna lose against Ground. grass resists you and can wall you out, like with synthesis, Giga Drain, Earth Powers, Leech Seeds, is really, really annoying for electric. It wants to hit hard, it wants to hit fast. Grass can kind of take that nicely enough. Similarly, I think Poison is kind of unfavorable for the same
Yeah, poison is definitely unfavorable.
reason. Like, you have Nidokings, you have Mega Venusaur. It can be like, I don't care, I'm gonna wall you out for days. Now there is some options that has against it, like Rising Voltage can tear through the type if they're not.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep Clodsire alive, and it's pretty easy to keep Clodsire alive versus electric, since you can't actually use their stabs to hit it. Like, I guess Psyshock Raichu gives this trouble, but like Poison Defensive Core is definitely too hard for electric to reliably break through, because you can just swap between Alolan Mark, Clodsire, Mega Venusaur, and you're just not breaking it, and they just spam Toxic versus you, or click Toxic Spikes, and it's just a long day for electric. I would even say it's just losing in general. Like, you don't beat Poison very at all, to be honest.
Careful, but Poison does definitely have some options for it. Same logic, Ghost does not have many answers.
Ghost, I don't think I lost a single game using electric versus Ghost. They like, the lack of ground type hurts them. The defensive core is the electric's defensive core is very easy to handle. Ghosts, onslaughts, AV, Iron Hand, Zapdos, Rotom Wash. Like, the only threat is like Mimikyu, and obviously Rotom Wash can just burn it. Like Ghost is definitely a winning matchup.
Just Rising Voltage, so I think Ghost can kind of lose to electric. Steel loses to electric.
Steel, yeah, electric is favored in that one. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a winning one straight away, like with Ghost, but yeah, you beat water. Like, again, you have to outplay. Like, Grass Knot Tapu Koko, but like swap between T-Bolt and Grass Knot Tapu Koko, and yeah, once the water ground type is gone, you should just win that. Very favorable, I would say, like 70-30 in electric's odds, even higher, to be honest. I'm just lowballing.
Type actually. Rock.
You beat Rock. You beat Rock.
Some ground types.
It has. You see, like, I'm not trying to nitpick every point. I'm really not. But like, let's think about it. Yeah, you're not running Rhyperior, not running Rhydon, you're not running Golem. Like, all of the rock grounds that are, you're never running any of them. So like, you can just Volt Switch freely. Iron Hands walls every mon, and then you just kill every mon. Like, Rock never wins.
Actually has sand as well. It does not appreciate sand. It has a lot of like ground.
Doesn't appreciate sand, but like, there's still Rotom Wash. And like, fair enough if it's like some bulky offense team with Cradily plus Terrakion, for example, because like Cradily can wall electric quite well, and then you can get some toxic spam, but half of the time, like, you're like, Rock's best playstyle is just HO webs, because like, you lose so many matchups, you might as well just go offense, try and win with sweepers, and use like some of your best dual type Pokemon.
Plenty of Earthquake or Earth Power users. Things like Nihilego are quite strong against it, so
I mean,
slightly unfavorable.
Unfit? Nah. There's no way. Electric versus Rock is not unfavorable for electric at all. AV Iron Hands just walls every special attack on Rock. You have Iron Hands just kills every single one on Rock. Plus, like, the Vortex spam with Volt Switch and stuff, and Rotom Wash. Like, it's highly dependent on if you're running Cradily. If you're not running Cradily, it's a complete loss. If you are running Cradily, it still just loses to Iron Hands. Like, I don't know. It's weird to think that electric versus Rock is unfavorable for electric.
Matchup versus Rock. Psychic does have Lattes. You don't really run Claydol, but it does have Lattes. So probably neutral. I'd say neutral. Normal has a really good defensive core.
Yeah, Normal's defensive core plus ground type. Electric's not having the best time. Electric's not having the best time. And like, Megalopony does threaten outspeed everything on electric other than Zeraora and Speed Tower Mega Main, but no one runs Mega Main.
To fight it. Ice is volatile as well. Like,
Ice, I think Ice is slightly favored. You get up Veil, you have Piloswine or Mamoswine, and like, you have G-Dom.
I think Ice loses, but Ice does have.
Well, yeah, some of these electric matchups are like interesting, and this is why it's an A-tier type in my opinion, because look how many are favorable, and like, I even said some of these are just straight up winnable matchups in general. and then like you only like properly like lose to like 3 types. So this is why electric's definitely the top of A so far, in my opinion.
A little controversial.
Dragon, I think Dragon and Electric are both strong. They should definitely be top 2 in A tier at this current moment in time, for sure.
I think Fairy's only B tier. I think it's a bit more of a specialist type. I don't think it's a type that anyone can just play and do amazing with. Now it's kind of
That's crazy. That's kind of crazy, to be honest. Because like you beat Dark, you beat Dragon, some of like the A tier types. You also have some really strong Pokemon on that type. Tapu Koko was Valiant. Like Fairy's arguably S tier, to be honest. Like I'm confused to how you rate Fairy that low, to be honest. Maybe I'm underestimating how many types it actually does well against, but like, you know, beat Dark, you beat Fighting, you probably beat like Flying, to be honest. Definitely hard, but I think you can do it. Lose to Poison probably. Yeah, like you still have some strong matchups against some of the top
people really
types.
like Fairy. People think Fairy. I think inflate how good Fairy is, in my opinion.
Like the more I'm thinking about it, maybe you are kind of right, but I don't think Fairy's B tier. Bug is definitely like swap Bug and Fairy around, shift Fairy around in A tier. We're talking.
Why like Bug? I think it loses to Dark. It definitely wins. It definitely wins. Like main option against Steel types.
Yeah, the Dragon, like I said, the Dragon versus Fairy matchup is very like skewed now because the Suin Gudra is a Pokemon that exists.
You have some electric attacks like Thunderbolt is things you use on the Fairy.
Yeah, I mean everything we talked about previously like is still the same.
There's an argument to be made it's unfavorable, but then like Azumarill is so good against it.
Yeah, like Z-Belly Drum Azu versus Fire just wins. Like, it's definitely a more neutral matchup for sure because, like, if they run Volcanion, they're obviously running enough speed on Volcanion to outspeed Adamant Azumarill. If you do go Jolly Azumarill, then yeah, Fire is getting folded because, like, Volcanion just dies to knock off.
I think it's fairly neutral. Flying is. I thought I put it here earlier. Maybe I actually took it away. I think Flying is somewhat unfavorable. Just like Celesteela again is really good against this type. I just spent that a second ago, I believe. Ghost, it's volatile, it's fairly neutral. It has plenty of options for it. Grass, I think it can beat Grass.
Like, can it beat Grass? Honestly, like Grass actually has some decent matchups. Like even it has a lot of really bad matchups, but it does have some decent matchups, and I think Fairy is potentially one of them because even then, like Mega Venusaur kind of just checks everything, all the threats on Fairy, like Iron Valley and Tapu Koko. Lele can't switch in, and I do think Lele is probably the biggest threat to Grass, unless like I was gonna say unless you're running Zarude, but like obviously Zarude just gets hit by Moonblast, of course. But it's more of I was trying to say that Grass just kind of gets spammed by psychic based attacks and. Like, there's Ferrothorn. Like, wait, there's actually just Ferrothorn. I'm tripping. There's just Ferrothorn. I'll say Fairy is like even neutral, is slightly favored towards Grass.
It's not like super fantastic tools against.
Like, it's actually crazy. The more I'm going through the matchups that Fairy has, the more I'm just thinking is actually like not an S tier type.
And that's kind of a strange one because you think like, oh, Excadrill is going to tear through this type. You do have your screens. You do have.
Ground versus Fairy. As I played that in NatDex World Cup. And I won the matchup with Ground against actually someone that's like relative to my skill level. I wasn't beating anyone that was like significantly worse than me. Yeah. Tapu Bulu's really your only like safe thing. Now, I mean to be fair, this was pre-home, but nothing really changed for these types like pre-home. I mean post-home in terms of the Mon selection. I guess Enamorous, but no one's really running Enamorous in that decks. But yeah, Mega Chomp Ground does work. Excadrill, you kind of just have to get rid of Bulu, play around it with Garchomp for sure. And yeah, you still have Landorus spamming Sludge Wave. Like, it's definitely a skill matchup. Even.
Eats this type for breakfast if you want to run it. It has things like Togekiss as well. You probably might need some kind of like electric neutrality somewhere on the team, but once you have that, like Tapu Lele is really good against this type. So I think
Tapu Lele is good against Ground. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Treads kind of gives it some trouble. But like, you're not running Treads or Excadrill onto the same team, which is fine to be fair. Like, I typically run Treads over Excadrill, and then you just heavy slam Fairy. Like, Spadef Treads walls like can handle all of Fairy's special attackers. So again, I don't know. It's not a winning matchup for Ferry in my opinion. It's definitely skill
Steel
based.
neutrality for like Excadrill, I think this type can win pretty easily. Obviously, it loses very badly to Steel, very tough matchup.
Yep.
It has
Loses a
some psychic
steal.
types to deal with Fairy, sorry, Poison types to deal with.
Um, even then, it's literally just Lele versus the world. Realistically, in terms of the psychic types that you have access to, and Mark can just beat it down. Like Mark can just switch in every time. Fair enough, it gets chipped down, and like most of the time, like if it's like CM Lele, yeah, you're probably gonna have a tough time. Even then, like you don't die, and then you're forcing it out. Mark runs Fire Punch now to kind of punish Klefki, so like that matchup is a lot easier, but it's definitely unfavorable for
Overall, I would
Fairy.
think it's a losing
Definitely,
matchup.
it's potentially losing. It's potentially losing.
What else do we have there? Anything else stand out to me particularly?
I guess you can beat normal. Um, yeah, I think you can beat normal. If you go like Valiant Coco, they have a very tough time with that. Or I wouldn't say straight up win is favorable for you to beat normal. Psychic, yeah, Victini gives you a tough time. Jirachi gives you a tough time. I'll say Psychic's unfavorable. Water, um, definitely favorable for Fairy. So I think that's something that you can definitely take away from Fairy that is favorable against Water. And yeah. But okay. Now that I've analyzed the matchups, maybe Fairy isn't as high as I thought it was, but like
That's
at
fair.
least from a matchup perspective, for sure.
This is favorable, not winning. Nothing else here like really stands out to me. Like, yeah, this type is like super good against these things. Like, it has
You probably beat Rock. Like what doesn't beat Rock? Yeah, not
very
much else to
formidable
say.
spikes. Has some stuff.
Okay, what's
Lati's,
fighting
Dragade,
in
Hatsuk.
B? Fighting in B. Ah man, that's rough. That is rough indeed. Fighting in B. Do I agree with that? I don't know. Fighting has a lot of really strong mons, and I think he's in A. To be honest,
Too prevalent, but you would see at the odd time.
you beat Dark. Bug. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Bug is neutral for sure because Bug has no Como
Fine.
answers.
Dragonite's kind of annoying. Komodo can do a lot against your team. I'd say Dragon is maybe slightly disadvantageous. Garchomp can punish a lot of your physical attacks.
No, I don't even remember what I said about Dragon versus fighting anyway, but like I think Dragon is favored just because of Mega Altaria plus like opposing
I'm going to put
Como.
slightly
So
disadvantageous, but maybe not.
yeah, I think it's like a 60-40 Dragon.
It does lose to Electric pretty badly. I think Electric can sweep up, can clean up. Maybe not like super badly now that it has Great Tusk. It has an option against it. But
Great Toss plus Iron Hands, but I still think that like if you're running a Alolan Raichu, you're in for a rough time. It doesn't really set up necessarily a nasty plot because Raichu has like zero bulk to his name, but it's more of like if you're Psyshock plus like Surf or something, like yeah, you probably overwhelm fighting very easily. Because like, Iron Hands can't block Psyshock. Like it can block Psychic, but not Psyshock.
it's definitely a disadvantage against Fairy and it's Electric. It does lose to Fairy. Pretty clean loss, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say
It
so.
does.
It's
Sorry, that should be disadvantageous. It does beat Fire. Like, you
Fire.
you have your Tauros, you have your Komodo.
Hmm.
It has a lot of strong tools. Urshifu Rapid.
I don't. I think it's like in slightly in Fire's favor because like I don't know. You're overwhelmed by Victini. To be honest, like if it's Z Celebrate Victini, which I've like faced on the Psychic matchup, which to be fair, fighting always just loses the fighting versus Psychic matchup anyway. But yeah, like you can just get overwhelmed. I
Strike, as long
feel.
as that thing's around, I think it pretty easily beats Fire. In fact, I'd almost say it just like really beats Fire. Great Tusk as well.
Really beats Fire? Nah, I'd say Fire has the side
Just so
advantage.
many
It
good tools against
depends.
Fire. Now, Fire does have like the kind of a
Uh,
strong offense that it can
Yeah,
keep track of,
like
but
again, yeah, Fire does have the strong offense. You can really overwhelm fighting pretty hard, to be honest. Especially if you're like Zard Y. Like Zard Y, you really only have like AVI and hands as a switching.
but probably not enough. Maybe disadvantageous or advantageous for Fire.
Is it
Flying, it loses to not super badly in my opinion. Like it can hold its own, but Ghost it kind of loses to as well.
Ghost? Uh, yeah, I'd say that, but I do think Como is another like this is why Como is like one of the best mons on fighting because it can like even its defensive answers, like things like unaware Skeledirge, you just taunt it, and then what does it do? Like even if you're say running soundproof, you'll just straight a wall Skeledirge. It can burn you. I mean, yeah, it can't. You just get taunted. So, but obviously unaware, like it can just boost with torch song, but like you should just free it Kiryu Skeledirge and like it's taunted. So what can it do? And then you just taunt like Galarian Corsola, also beat it down.
Well,
You
it
know?
just doesn't like the fact it can't use its stab reliably. Go
Like if you could use like Megalopony on fighting, then yeah, Ghost loses because like something like Goldengo like wouldn't be bulk enough to
incredibly
handle it.
strong and fast, and has a lot of like burn users or paralysis, or even Spike Stack or Frostlass.
Ghost versus fighting is
Sheer
definitely
damage
even.
cannot spin away with its tusk. Um, Grass don't have too much of an opinion.
Grass versus fighting. Um, Grass can definitely win that one because Mega Venusaur kind of just walls the physical attackers on fighting pretty hard. To be honest, like you check Great Task, you check even things like Iron Valiant, you check quite efficiently. Hisuian Lilligant is a pretty solid win con versus fighting teams because you kind of just sleep powder, victory dance up, and kind of kill everything. So yeah, grass can beat fighting, like for sure.
On that, I guess it's leading winning matchup, but
I guess Scarf, like if you're running Scarf Zapdos, like yeah, Grass is in for a tough time. But yeah, it depends on comp, but I still think Grass is slightly favored in that.
have like a huge opinion. Same with Ground. I feel like
Ground. This is like another like complete neutral matchup. It really just depends on what you're running. Great Tusk is bulky enough to handle, things like Excadrill very easily. I think the only thing that's tough is like Drill Sand, which again Great Tusk is there, but it kind of just threatens a lot of the other offensive threats. Como can obviously come in and beat ground, so stuff like that. Like it's very, very even, depends on comp. Like I can't really say any type is favored in that one.
does it do much against Ground?
You beat Ice though, you beat normal. Yeah, even though, yeah, you probably beat normal.
Probably not. Like it has some good things. Urshifu's pretty nice. Tauros, depending on Quaquaval, can be pretty good.
Poison is probably tough again if they're running Galarian Weezing. Like Como can't really do much. But yeah, get that out of the way, and you're probably in for a good time versus Poison, because Mega Venusaur can't hit you with Sludge Bomb since it's bulletproof all of these times, and yeah.
Good, but Ground is
Another
strong.
even matchup,
It has
depends on comp.
options against it.
Psychic is lost, and then like see how many matchups that fighting actually has that it can actually do well against, and it's in B tier. I
This
don't
is a
know,
pretty
man.
tough matchup for
I
Ground.
don't know, man. It's pretty rough out here. What's the next type? Let's see. Fire. Yeah, fire's in the mud right now. It definitely just feels like a fish type right now, because like you just have to pray that you get a type that can't handle your offensive threats, and if you do get a type that handles your offensive threats, like you're in for a rough time. Though what I will say is that fire offensively is pretty strong. Like there isn't that many types that resist fire. Like it's only dragon, water, and fire itself. Like so it does have, it can hit a lot of types neutrally, obviously, since it only has 3 resistances. So yeah. But it's just more of like the mons that you're running on them are all offensive. Your defensive core isn't necessarily the strongest, so you can just get overwhelmed by other types like electric, for example, fighting. It's just like who wins first,
If you want to run Sun reliable,
which isn't the most consistent thing to do in this metagame.
You can't necessarily do so with ease because you're boosting Great Tusk, Roaring Moon. Scary. Garganackle is here. That thing can be pretty.
Like first time ever Rock actually has a winning matchup. Let's get it.
Just a lot of news. You resist its stab and you just can hit back.
Fairy, yeah, favorable versus Fairy is what, like Fight has a lot of whatever matchups. Like depending on what's running, you can definitely do it. It just really depends on the type, the strong types and what they use versus Fire. For example, like Dragon, you don't beat. Electric just Vortex spams you.
Amount of options for you. I think you lose to Fighting.
Yeah, fighting is definitely unfavorable to you. It depends, because like you don't run Z Celebrate Victini that commonly on Fire. If you did, then like fighting just loses in general. But that's more of like a psychic sort of thing. But yeah, I again, like I think it's slightly even, but more in like fighting's favor, because like Como is a Pokemon that exists,
It could be quite strong. I just described why. We have Urshifu, Komo-o.
Ground is definitely lost. Like, ground is definitely lost. All you have to do is play around with sand and then drill out speeds everything and kills everything. Like, ground is definitely losing.
Quavo, Tauros,
You beat
Ultra
fire,
Ball,
though. I'll say that. You
fantastic
beat
teams.
fire. Like, you beat fire very easily. So, yeah.
So that's kind of scary. I think it loses to flying somewhat. Like you have Mantine, Dragonite. Now you don't care about their physical.
Yeah, flying's unfavorable. Like, some of those ones that you mentioned definitely
The
give
walls
fire a
excel
tough
speed.
time. Though Victini is definitely going to be the MVP of that matchup because you just bolt strike like Mantine, for example, and then nothing else really wants to be taken V-Create.
Or
So,
Skarmory are typically what they, or Corviknight are typically what they run on the physical side, hit pretty hard. So chances are you're not.
Ghost, I don't know. Like, Ghost's lack of like common resistances with its typing means that like fire has a better shot versus types that don't straight up resist it, and Ghost doesn't have many mons that resist fire. So you can definitely overwhelm Ghost teams. So I'd say fire is low-key kind of favored in that.
One of those. You can't rapid spin against Ghost. It blocks it. Ghost is quite.
Like, Ghost can hazard stack, but it's not like they have like big rockers other than Corsola G, for example, and like some ones can just run boots on fire. Like, you can go boots Victini, like, or like Scarf or whatever. But yeah, hazards are annoying. Because like if you're going like the Megazards, then you're not gonna be able to get off rocks with against Ghost because you're running a spinner. So
fast and strong this generation. Blacephalon can kind of abuse your own Sun. Now it's not the best abuser of it, but it can happen.
yeah, I even forgot Blacephalon was a Pokemon. To be fair, yeah.
Is
You beat grass, yep. Like you lose the ground.
disadvantageous. Like if it gets gravity up, I think it's losing. Like
You don't even need gravity. That's the thing. Like you don't even need gravity. Like, sure enough, like Zard Y, yes, is like one of the only immunities plus like Rotom Heat, but that's hardly a Pokemon I've seen this generation.
you get your gravity, maybe disadvantageous just because you do have Sun, which means you can run your solar beams or your.
It's a straight up loss because like the better player will always just play around Sun, get in drill. Even mons like Garchomp in general, like what does fire really have against Scale Shot Garchomp? Absolutely nothing.
Stuff which can kind of take care of ground or take him down.
Yeah, like the only types you can beat reliably on fire. I don't like. It's still a C-tier type because it's just like quite inconsistent. But
argument to be said, like, oh, it's kind of neutral because a Sun can override water, can weaken your water attack.
you can beat normal though. You can definitely beat normal.
And you can hit them back with.
Like I just think Victini and like Zardex are some of like the best Pokemon on the type, and Victini should be respected a bit more.
But once they get Rain Up or one of the only spoiler 2 S tier
Flying
at the moment, I think Flying is just super good.
Flying in S tier,
good after the kind of change.
I don't mind it in it. I still, in my general opinion, I think the S tier types are like definitely Steel. Like there's no shot of Steel being below S. It's just too good at what it does. Against some of the like top types, Steel has a very good time. Its defensive core is very strong, and that's why things like Fighting are in A tier and not in B tier, in my opinion. But yeah, flying. I don't really mind seeing Flying in S. I do think it has a lot of strong mons. It's not a type I generally use because I don't really like the playstyle too tough. But yeah.
But I think the general like how well balanced Flying is still amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of the most consistent typings. It doesn't straight up really lose to any other type in the metagame that hard, other than Rock, to be fair. But you have like one of the best types versus like arguably the worst type. So Rock has to have one good matchup, and that's Flying.
So matchup wise, it has a slight advantage, I think, versus Bug.
Yeah, but Bug definitely has better tools, like e.g. Cleaver to handle Flying these days. But I still just think the likes of like Celesteela, plus Lando T can sort of just handle Bug in general. Because like Celesteela can like run Flamethrower, Leech Seed, like. Nothing on Bug really just breaks anything on Flying too well, to be honest. Like, you could say Galvantula or, like, Vikavolt, but those guys have to, like, run HP Ice. Like, Vikavolt is also slow as hell and, like, can be very threatened by, like, some of Flying's offensive mons. And then Galvantula, on the other hand, is just walled by, like, Lando T. So, what can you say?
Not amazing anymore. I would say it's somewhat advantageous against ground too.
Yeah,
If you
you
do
have
resist
like
the
you just have
fly,
a lot of
even if they
solid
have gravity, you're
matchups,
not
to be
necessarily
honest.
weak to them. Dragon. I would say though it's disadvantageous versus poison.
Poison, yeah, I would say so. Like it's the long game you're playing versus poison, especially if you don't have something like Mega Aerodactyl, for example.
And hear me out as to why. And not necessarily they can't get their toxic spikes up, but they can just completely bunker down and wall you out. You are typically a balanced kind of play style, and
Yeah, like you're kind of right. Like you're not running too many fly. Like there isn't enough threats on like flying because like a lot of it is like more like utilizing your defensive, attributes. Being immune to spikes, toxic spikes, sticky webs, for example. And like yeah, like you really only beat poison if you're running like if you decide to go Lando I flying, which is like a thing, or like Lando T flying. Like Landorus is like your wing con versus poison in general, and even then, like there could be Weezing G, but like if you go Lando I Gravity, then yeah, Poison probably loses. But yeah, it's just not too
I think
common
poison is
because
good
like.
against balance because it can just completely
But yeah,
wall it
I
out
would
for
say
days.
that
You
Poison
can
is
try
slightly
set up
favored
if
in
it
that.
leaves you
Depends on
away.
comp.
You can try swap around if they get a toxic Chris, you have
Ice is tough for flying. Yeah, that's true. Like any like flying only has three weaknesses to rock, electric and ice, and all of those matchups are very hard for the type. But while electric is one of the best typings, and ice is arguably pretty decent right now, and rock is like bottom
like
tier. It's
Gecko.
not too bad. All the rest of your neutral matchups. Or all like neutral matchups, at least from a type chart perspective, are pretty solid.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You have Dragon Knight. You can run Zard if you want. Yeah, I think it has like a slight advantage.
You like Steel is favored because like you could go Zard Y flying and just scorching sands the Heatran coming in, and yeah, it's a pretty fun
Versus
time.
Steel, not a major one, but definitely slightly
Even
advantageous.
Hisuian Gujo can't handle Zard Y in Sun.
Just, I think it's so defensive as well that it doesn't even lose to Rock anymore. It has plenty of heavy duty boots users. You have Landorus and Steela are gonna.
I mean, as much as I said, Rock is like a winning matchup for no, as much as Flying is a winning matchup for Rock, um, like there are some defensive threats. Like Celesteela in general gives Rock a very hard time. You really need to have like some boosts up with something like if you're like SD Cleaver, then yeah, you won't even Oko Celesteela from full HP. That's the sad thing. It would have to be like a Z move or some move user or something, or go like Z move Lycanroc to even have a chance of breaking Celesteela reliably. Or even just like you break Corviknight, it's just that like Celesteela's bulkier than Corviknight, so you have to be careful around that.
Wall out Rock for days and can do
Rock is
things.
like, is it
Rock has a
evens?
chance, but I don't
It's like 55-45. Like that's how badly Rock is experiencing right now.
necessarily an advantageous matchup either. Other than that,
Water, like I've never actually thought about water versus flying in that decks, but yeah, it's okay. Like rain probably gives you some trouble, but I do feel like Celesteela can handle it. I think the like balance sort of water builds, like or like the Storly sort of stuff can beat flying because you kind of just toxic everything not named Celesteela or the other steel flying types, and yeah, you're in for a good
I
time.
think most of these look fairly neutral to me. I think I can't think of anything that screams like, yeah, this is a winning matchup against these things. It kind of depends how you build your team.
Yeah,
But looking at
so
this
that's
right away,
so that's why I can agree with flying being S because it's consistent. Like that's what you can really ask for. Like there's nothing really that it loses hard to other than like ice, to be honest. And even then, there's
you
counterplay.
have three like slightly disadvantageous
Okay, on to the next type.
against Dark. But it's still a
Ghost is definitely a B type. The more I laddered with Ghost, the more I was just like, yeah, this is definitely not an A. Like Ghost issues that like it has like a couple of winning matchups and then everything else is just lacking in my opinion, and I do think that's because of the fact that Ghost doesn't have too many natural resistances to take advantage of in all of the matchups. Like Ghost only resists bug, is immune to normal, and resist poison, and even then poison's defensive core, like poison can win. Now, I mean, the Ghost can win if you somehow get rid of the Alolan Mark. If you get rid of the Alolan Mark, Nasty Plot Gold then goes 6-0s. Or you go Aegis Slash, for example, which does have a better Mark matchup because SD Close Combat cooks that thing. or or just go like Iron Head and kill it like that. So yeah, but Poison's definitely favored in the Ghost matchup. Other than that, like Ghost just doesn't have any super duper strong matchups in my opinion. That like. Cause like he's only strong against Psychic and Ghost. Like fair, you can beat Psychic. Like that's one of your matchups, and then like the Ghost Mirror is the Ghost Mirror. Like you know,
Matchup in my opinion. Like it still can
like
be
there's just nothing
not the
super strong
best in
that Ghost
regards to things
really can
like
beat. Like if
um
we look at the current A tier types, even if we swap around like fighting and bug and put fairy in that, Ghost doesn't even beat any of those like reliably. Like they all like both like types like Dragon versus Ghost both have tools, but Dragon is still favored because Dragon just has stronger Pokemon in general. And is it because we banned all of Ghost's good Pokemon like Dragapult, Spectria? Probably, but those ones were broken, so we're gonna get rid of them, and is irregardless of whether Ghost gets worse or better after that. So
Sucker Punch, knockoff spam. Like you're gonna have Mimikyu, which is probably your best option, but other than that,
like Mimikyu's good for like facing other offense, but yeah, that's my issue. Like Ghost HO is overwhelmed by any other type that has good HO, and Ghost Balance is also just overwhelmed by other HO from other types. Like Fire HO beats like Ghost Balance very easily, Electric as well because you're not running Runerigus or Golurk. Is there any other Ghost ground types? Palossand? Yeah.
you don't have a lot to
What other
like
types?
ground.
Cause I know enough about Ghost. Like I was running Mega Bayonet Ghost for crying out loud, and that wasn't good. Obviously, even though it has Swords
They're
Dance.
not over.
Like I could put Ghost in C to
Hazard's
be honest.
incredible.
Like, arguably, like Fire has some better matchups. To be fair,
They're quite good in
like,
general because
but like putting Ghost in C is like Ghost isn't in the same tier as like Grass, even though Grass probably has more relevant good matchups, but also has worse matchups than Ghost in general. So I guess I can put Ghost is definitely like the bottom of B in my opinion. Pre Spectre ban probably like top of B just because Spectre is a broken mon, but
by getting their hazards or status and stuff up, which Ghost can often deny.
I think Ghost's like best attribute is being able to keep up hazards against more defensive team styles. That's its strongest attribute because you kind of hazard stack with either Bramblegast or Frostlass, get up like Rocks or Corsola G, run a Goldengo, and like something like Steel doesn't appreciate that. Like I'll say Ghost can beat Steel. Like I'll say that straight up. Like Ghost can beat Steel. Like the defensive core is strong enough for you to handle everything. The only issue is like toxic spam, but like you can just go hard Goldengo on a lot of the things that want to use toxic or leech seed, like Celesteela, for example, and set up a nasty plot. So yeah, Ghost's best matchup is Steel, like in
Fighting,
my
I think, it has
opinion.
a slight advantage again. It just resists its stabs. Now, fighting is going to run a lot of like dark spam or dark coverage to try and circumvent that immunity, but even still, you're not enough, and you're gonna.
You're also not favored versus fighting. It's more of an even matchup, slightly leaning into fighting like 60-40, in my opinion. Because again, no Como answer other than like Mimikyu, but it depends on the team comp, of course. Because if you're running Ghost like balance, trying to hazard stack with using Goldengo, have a defensive core of like Skeledurge and Galarian Corsola and stuff like that, then I don't think I think Como can just run that over. But if you're running Ghost HO, I think fighting is in for a tougher time, even though like Como can still win. There's like Iron Valiant and stuff like that, and yeah, essentially.
Have some nice options against.
But yeah, fighting is slightly
What
favored.
else here do I think they necessarily beat? I think they lose to normal. I think normal definitely.
Yeah, normal overwhelms. Fighting overwhelms goes pretty hard. Like your defensive core, kind of like you can just CC spam. Like Sableye dies to Megalop CC. The only thing is that like it's teammates usually. Like if you're trying to fit Galarian Corsola plus Skeledurge, like normal can't really hurt that too tough. Like if they go Ursaluna, then everything gets thrown out of the window. The entire defensive core just shuts down to like Headlong Rush, for example. But even then, Galarian Corsola just strength slaps that back. So it just depends, to be honest. But I do think I think Ghost is slightly favored, maybe like 45-55, maybe,
advantage in this matchup,
or even like
normal has like
49-51.
even Boomburst Scrappy, Exploud if you want to go down that route, and as well as that
Yeah, I guess yeah, I completely forget about like xCloud. Like it's not a staple by any means, and I did like using xCloud for sure. That would definitely tear down Ghost very easily. But
You
yeah,
are
it's still
if they're
relatively
really
a
immune to your
50-50
stabs,
matchup.
you're immune to their stabs. They don't rely as much on their stabs. I rank it neutral for that
Ice and
reason.
Fire versus Ghost. Um Wait, this is like neutral. This is like favorable matchups. I still don't even believe that anyway. Like Ghost, like any stronger type than Ghost gets overwhelmed by any other hyper offensive sort of strategy, and all Ice has to do is get up Veil, set up with their mons, and all Fire has to do is set up Sun, go like Victini or Zardex, Zard and it's kind of over. Ice also has Weavile. Like how's that favorable for Ghost in the slightest? It's just knockoff spam. So
Exactly.
it's interesting how you put
Um,
that in favorable for Ghost.
ground.
I don't really think so.
I feel like ground has plenty of options for you. Like Ting Lu can set up in your face. They can kind of like sand rush.
Brambleghast versus Ground, pretty solid option. Other than that, like again, like Sand Ground versus Ghost is just complete win for Sand, to be honest, because Skeleton, your unaware one loses to Excadrill, like just straight up gets to it KO'd. Gravity Lando Eye also doesn't do Ghost any favors. There's no switch-ins to that either. That also has knockoff if you want to run knockoff. And yeah,
Overwhelm
the
you
like
if
Ghost
they
actually
allow to
does
do
not
that.
have many good
I
matchups
don't
at
necessarily
all,
think it would be
really.
disadvantage.
And I know that for sure because I ladder with Ghost. Even if I wasn't memeing with Mega Bayonet, like I still ladder with Ghost.
But
Not to mention that we haven't even discussed water because Rainwater just beats Ghost. So yeah,
whenever I play Rainwater,
definitely bottom of B tier.
your
No
ability is
shot that is higher than fighting or fairy in any
fast and
circumstance.
stronger. Aegis
Like your only winning matchup guaranteed is Psychic. Like that's not good.
then go down
That's
victory
not good at all.
appreciated.
And I guess Steel, you're very favored versus Steel. But other than that,
And you have
not
plenty
very
of
good.
options to swap
And
around.
like Psychic's guaranteed. Steel is like almost guaranteed. Bug is pretty solid in your favor if you're going like a defensive Ghost team. And yeah,
Against
3 out of 18 matchups
in two
and the
minds.
rest are
Your steel
arguably
also has some good
disadvantageous to
options like
you. I don't know,
bug or
man. I don't know.
you do a few fire types. I'm gonna put it neutral. I'm kind of debating this one a lot, but I'm gonna put it neutral. I think for that reason, I think you have a slight disadvantage versus poison. You can't
Nah, yeah, nah.
with them
Very
compared to maybe
disadvantageous
Wizard
for
has some
poison, like I
surfar abilities to
mentioned.
remove them if they really need to.
Yeah, like not much else to say about Ghost to be honest. That hasn't been said already. It is definitely the bottom of B tier right now. I need to see the whole list of like his end like tier list just to swap things around because yeah, some of this I don't agree with. So far at least, I'll keep the tier list open just to like say where I would put certain things and not go too much into depth at the end of the video. He put Grass in B, and I'm not gonna lie, Grass actually has some decent matchups. Like, and I love Grass. I really want Grass to be a good type because it really does have solid Pokemon on the type. Like, Rillaboom nerf kind of hurts, so I don't even use Rillaboom anymore. But it's more of the combination of Hisuian Lilligant plus Mega Venusaur that have really elevated the type for me. Brambleghast is also a really underrated utility option on Grass. Windrider, but water is so easy for Grass, like it's actually insane. Like unlike in SV where you could actually just lose, like you can actually just beat water so easily. And like despite the fact that Protein, Ice Beam, Greninja exist, you can still play around that with like Ferrothorn, for example. So like it's good. Like Grass still has like a lot of really bad matchups for sure. Like Dragon and Poison are pretty much lost. No. Oh wait, the way I'm gonna get so mad about the Dragon versus Grass matchup. Let me not like. Let's see what KingKrabz has to say because this is gonna annoy me so much. Like I was in high ladder NDM ladder, like facing like the some guy in the top 10 on the ladder with Grass. I was going to beat this guy so easily if I didn't miss Ice Spinner. That's the problem with Hisuian Lilligant on the type. If you miss your moves versus types you can actually beat like Dragon and Flying, it's actually such a long thing. I swear down. Like you can tell I'm just getting angry about it because bro lost the whole game if I landed that Ice Spinner on Garchomp, but no, I decided to miss. Fuck that shit, bro.
Now it does have a disadvantage versus things like Bug,
Yeah, bug is not favorable for grass. The Mega Venus or HP Fire does do a lot of work. It's more of Volcarona sets up, and it's just kind of over for you.
Dark is not the best. Like Dark, it also has good. No, actually,
No, I'm not gonna lie. Grass beats Dark. I'm not gonna lie. Grass can beat Dark. I Mega Sableye is annoying, but it's more of Grass's issues that like it doesn't run special attackers. Like there isn't that many like spammable special attackers on the type. Like a lot of your best mons are purely physical, like Rillaboom, Hisuian Lilligant, Zarude, for example, and like you don't really get much to break Dark's defensive core too much because even Meowscarada with Protein play rough, yeah, threatens Mega Sableye, but Mega Sableye is going to live from full HP and just burn you. Like, so it depends. Like, if you run Whimsicott, then like Dark just loses. Like, I don't really see any way of Dark really winning that, other than like trying to set up with Hisuian, with Galarian Moltres, which you can stop. Like, if you allow that mon to set up, then you deserve to lose the game.
do you know, I
But
don't
you
like
are favored versus
because
Dark for
you
sure.
have Meowscarada, so I think that's an option for it. Like play rough Meowscarada.
Yeah, like Meowscarada, Hisuian Lilligant, Brambleghast, some of the best additions to the type. Because I would not rate Grass this highly if this was still like Gen 8.
Choice
That's all I know.
pretty good against Dark. Dark does have screens and Gold Trace and stuff, and Roaring Moon. They can be.
I guess screens Dark can annoy you a little bit, but I do think against like bulky offense / balance, Grass is
annoying,
favored.
but I think if you play
Dragon. No, again, Dragon's not lost. Dragon's not lost. Hisuian Lilligant really does bits versus Dragon because you outspeed a lot of Dragon mons like Garchomp. You outspeed Baxcalibur. You outspeed fuck, what else you outspeed? Mega Altaria. Like the only things you don't outspeed are like the Latis and like if they're Choice Scarf, fair, they're Choice Scarf, they're gonna beat you anyway. But it's just a thing where you click Sleep Powder, you get up one Victory Dance, you Ice Spinner, maybe get greedy and set up a second one. If you set up a second one, like Dragon just loses, and then also like Hisuian Guja just walls like all the special attackers that you could be running on Dragon. Next thing you know, you just CC down, it dies, or you Z move it because you don't want to miss CC, and yeah, you're on a good time.
again, but with Gudra on the field.
Dragon is slightly
have
favored, but I
Hisuian
do
to
think
start.
Grass having that way out with Hisuian Lilligant means it's not a completely losing matchup. If you're not running Hisuian Lilligant, just say goodbye to your chances, I suppose.
Play rough in that regard, so it's a hard matchup.
Plus, there's play rough Meowscarada, for example. Like, you can't say Dragon's a losing matchup. At
very
all.
hard. Electric, I think it has the advantage versus.
Yeah, Electric is favored. Again, Brambleghast completely walls Zapdos, which is hilarious, and you just kind of spike stack on that.
With the matchup. Like you have Rillaboom to override electric terrain. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, they're
overriding electric terrain is also a very valid point there.
They have some hidden power ices. You're gonna have Ferrothorn. Yeah, I think it actually wins electric, which is kind of a weird high tier snipe. And I think that's kind of what Grass is. It has some.
Yeah,
weird
like Grass can beat everything you have in A tier so far. Like it can. Like, oh, maybe not flying. You don't beat flying. No, flying's in the exact same position as Dragon. Get up Hisuian Lilligant Victory Dance. I spin everything. Z move fighting the steel flying, and you win the game. Like it's very easy.
Snipe tier matchups.
Because even Zard X does not like +1 Ice Spinner. It doesn't. And then like if you manage to keep up rocks, then that one is dead at 50.
With regards to that, I think it has an advantage versus water.
So anyone putting Grass in like C tier is like is crazy.
Now water can be faster and stronger than you, and it has
Like I
the
low-key
ability
think
to
Grass is
walk
better than
away,
Ghost
it
right now.
reduces
Like, do you know how
your
crazy that
stab,
is?
or be neutral to your stabs.
Like you beat water, you beat electric, you arguably can cheese the hell out of Dragon and Flying with Hisuian Lilligant. You beat Dark, in my opinion. The only times that fire that like Grass does not like is like Ice, of course. Like Ice is very tough for Grass. You beat Ground. Arguably, yeah, Fire as well. Like Fire is tough. I won't even deny or lie to you guys. Fire is very tough.
So for that reason,
And Fire, like that's what Fire can do.
But you do have the advantage versus it, and Rillaboom can absolutely tear these.
I guess Ghost is kind of tough, to be honest. Like Ghost is probably pretty tough, except you have options like Zarude and Meowscarada. So Like, take that with a grain
It
of
was pretty
salt.
good as like an anti-fire tech, but it's not going to be enough.
Like, Cradley is like your best shot versus fire, and I've ran Cradley grass teams, and I did have a decent shot, but like Cradley just gets overwhelmed, unfortunately. Sun is up. You have like Darmanitan clicking flare blitz on scarf sets or banded V create Victini. Like, yeah, it's just a very like rough
To kind of
matchup.
sweep itself as a winning match.
You'd beat
Just letting
ground.
you know, Rillaboom's gonna have
Definitely, like, what Rillaboom plus Mega Venusaur, like, the only shot that ground really has is, like, SD scale shot, Garchomp, of course, but obviously, assuming Lilligant can set up on everything on ground, Ice Spinner that, doesn't even need Leaf Blade, just Ice Spinner everything, and, you know, you should have a good time.
your Grassy Surge could weaken their Earthquakes, or
Yeah, Flying's tough, Ice is tough. But again, like, even the matches, like I said, that Dragon and Flying that you should be winning, like, you can win, is still, like, very favorable for them. Very favorable.
Or is it neutral to Ice? I guess neutral to Ice, like...
Neutral to Ice, but I think G-Dom just overwhelms everything on grass, to be honest, with a combination of Icicle Crash plus Flare Blitz. Because you just kill Ferrothorn, and then once Ferrothorn is dead, you kind of just spam Ice attacks, though... you can outplay it with like Meowscarada because Flower Trick ignores, you know, Veil, but at the same time, you still just have mons like Weavile, you know, clicking triple axle versus you, and it's tough.
If you can wear out their screen's turn, Rillaboom and break easily wall it up.
Poison's practically impossible. I've never won that matchup. Is impossible.
Just grass
and you beat Rock. So overall, like Grass has some, you know, very polarizing matchups, but you know. Like I think it's B tier for those reasons alone. Like it's definitely not on the same tier as Rock.
My opinion.
It's not fishy per se. Like, cause like fishy means like you're just trying to beat all the top types, but reliably you can actually beat some of the top types. So it just depends.
Next up, you have ground. Ground for me is
ground is definitely A tier. For sure. Like having such the versatility of team styles, having broken ones like Landorus, like is not broken. Is a broken one that's like not banned because you know like it has no switching, but at the same time like it can just be outsped. Like that's Landorus's biggest issue. It's like average is like above average speed tier. It can still just be outsped in that
contender for top 5. I think it's not quite top 5 just because
it's definitely, I don't know, is it better than Dragon? I don't know, just because like Water's definitely S tier, and Steel as well, to be fair. Yeah, no lower than A. I don't know where it goes, to be honest. I think Dragon and Ground are probably relative to one another. Better than Dark in my opinion, and then Bugs just shouldn't be in A in the first place, to be fair.
Maybe it has back with things like quite strong your gravity up, their flyers.
Yeah, like I think Ground's like you know most notable matchup is being electric, to be fair, which is actually pretty good for it.
Fire, get your gravity.
You beat Fire.
Fairy has this slight advantage.
Fairy again, Ground versus Fairy is a very skilled matchup. Very skilled.
They resist to your immunities.
Unfavorable versus Flying, I agree with.
An advantage. It doesn't win. It's a favorable matchup for sure.
But yeah, it is favorable, but I still think like Poison just overall gets overwhelmed by Landorus, especially like Gravity, because like you can't rely on like Crobat or Galarian Weezing for you know as a ground immunity.
It doesn't get wins necessarily, because.
But like Mega Venusaur is obviously like you know Poison's best way of checking ground types, and like it is bulky enough to handle some of them. But like I just feel like if you're facing like Sand, SD Drill, like folds Poison very easily. So I'll say they're favored like 65-35 in my opinion.
Amoonguss can be annoying. Slowking.
No one run. Like, I'm so sorry, yeah, but no one runs Amoonguss when Mega Venusaur exists. Like, maybe I'm just sounding like a meta slave, and I'm just like, oh, just go Mega Venusaur. But what reason do you have for not running Mega Venusaur? Like, what does Amoonguss offer over Mega Venusaur other than Spawn Regenerator? Like, you get a mon that just gives you a free ice resistance. You get a mon that gives you a fire. Well, I said ice resistance. You have neutralities to those things now. I don't know, man. Like Amoonguss can definitely be run, but like, why wouldn't you run Mega Venusaur like 95% of the time?
So definitely has the well. Don't let them get Veil up.
Ice,
Through them.
yeah, nah. Ice is just long for ground. Same thing with water and grass and ice. Like all of ground's weaknesses, it can't beat. Like don't expect to win your weaknesses. But other than that, your neutral matchups are very good with ground. Very, very solid.
Other than that, Great Tusk can do well.
Ground offensively is also super effective against 5 types. Like it's always going to be a solid type.
I feel like find a way. Actually, you know what? No, it's advantageous.
Yeah, it is because steel does nothing to gravity. Lando, like
kind of win if they do have like a Ferrothorn.
Drill as well.
Play around it with Great Tusk.
Well, no, you like Ferrothorn even loses to Lando because Earth Power into Focus Blast just kills Ferrothorn. So you know,
kind of spam your Earthquakes or Earth Powers.
And then you have Great Tusk, which you know handles like everything else.
So yeah, I think it wins that matchup
very easily, very easily.
They can get rid of their balloons as well. Looking at the rest of the matchups here,
every other matchup here, like Dragons, whatever. Fairy's pretty skill based. Fighting always has a chance of winning just because Como is such a silly Pokemon sometimes. A Ghost as well, you're pretty favored in that. Like Ghost defensive core can't really keep up. Normal as well. Like, I guess Megalopony Triple Axle kind of annoys you, and like, but like P2 plus Staraptor is enough for me to say he's like a very even matchup there. Psychic as well, kind of a similar situation. Both of them can go HO styles, and Psychic can win and Ground can win. Like pretty even. Like Ground has even matchups, pretty like most of the matchups are even against the top types. You do beat Electric quite well, Poison quite well, and then like your bad matchups are like whatever, you know, like you're going to lose them regardless. So
I don't see anything like.
What's the next type?
Higher than Electric. I think Electric is too volatile.
I think the best type that he has in ground right now, I mean, A rank right now is like Dragon. Is like either Electric, like Dragon, Electric, Ground, or like definitely higher than Bug and Dark. That's what I have to say.
Maybe it is like low B tier.
Low B tier, I can't lie. You might have to respect Ice a bit more. You might just have to respect Ice a bit more. I think Ice is definitely at the top of B tier right now because I do feel like it has like some decent matchups, but it's never really a thing where like you want to be playing Ice consistently because like it really doesn't do anything versus Steel. Fighting is also a pretty tough matchup for it, and you know, it can beat Water though, like potentially. I'll say potentially, but yeah, it's definitely better than Ghost. So Ice should be at the top of B in my opinion.
Very similar properties.
Let's see. Dragon Ground, yeah, makes sense. Bug is pretty tough. Yeah, Fighting is also pretty tough because like fire is pretty much a loss. Like you just get overwhelmed. You can just stop the Veil going up with Sun. Like Fire is a completely losing matchup for Ice. Completely.
You know, Cloister. It has options, screens. They can override your screens. It's Sun. Yeah, Flying is favorable.
Flying is favorable for sure. Grass, yeah, I should be beating Grass.
Win for Ice.
Yeah, for sure.
Rock is a pretty bad loss.
Yeah, like Rock when it faces the super effective guys. Yeah, it's in business. You know,
like Power Rock spam. This is already a loss, but disadvantage.
But yeah, no, like think about it. Like you're strong. You beat Dragon. You beat Grass. Like. You pretty much beat everything that's weak to you on Ice, pretty much, which is 4 types, which is pretty solid. And then the rest are like, you know, neutral, other than like Steel and Water. But like, as you can see, like, there's already 3 types in like the losing matchups, and you're gonna add like 2 more onto that. So like, that's why Ice isn't too consistent. But
Normal has things like the Pori Chansey core. It can throw its rocks down. It can kind of block your spin attempts if they are clever with Hisui and Zoroark.
But yeah, like Ice definitely isn't like it might be middle of B potentially, or just top of B because realistically, I do think Ice is better than Ghost. So what can I say?
So like others, but just there could be kind of like on the same tier as Fairy. If I had like a B and B minus, I put these like B, and these got like B minus. I don't particularly care to do it that much in depth, so I'm gonna put
I'm also not bothered to separate by B plus or B minus. Like this is just kind of long for me. But We're almost done.
I think there's like solid options versus steel. It has
Normal. Yeah, I think normal's a B tier type. Like it's because of its inability, because of the fundamental way the type works. That normal's not strong against everything. Like it's always going. It's pretty one dimensional as well. To be fair, but
pretty nice
I've
matchup.
experimented with normal. Don't get it twisted, bro. Like X-Cloud cooked ground. Like X-Cloud cooks ground. Like 2-hit kills Klotza. You know, I can't complain.
Just because it's so bulky. Psychic doesn't run the most. Like it has some fighting coverage.
Like normal's strong matchups are like Dark. Arguably, like I think you have a good matchup versus Dragon just because like Megalopony carries so many of normal's matchups, and without it, is a very like your matchups just disappear if you don't run Megalopony.
For dark types, but not enough to break through normal. And
I think Fairy's probably better than normal by a margin. Ice is probably not better than normal. Normal is definitely better than Ghost.
For that, we are thinking.
Like, I just think Ghost is hella mid right now.
Poison. Again, poison. Get your
Poison, like anything relatively bulky, normal definitely struggles against, e.g. poison. Like I don't really see any way of normal really beating poison too tough. Unless like again you're running like some, you know, stall breaker stuff like Luna, or like just some massive wall breakers like X-Cloud, because I'll say it now, nothing on poison's rolling X-Cloud. Plus Sneasler kind of exists and gives you a very, very tough time. So I would say it's very unfavorable for normal versus poison.
toxic spikes down. They that so they'll just think it's. You do have options, Meloetta. I think Meloetta.
I guess there's also things like fire as well. Like just really strong offense options can really overwhelm the defensive core. Like normal's defensive core is pretty much P2, the one of the blobs, and like Staraptor as, you know, a fighting neutrality. And I guess if you want to talk about Hisuian Zorak adding, you know, some immunities, then yeah, we can discuss that. But yeah, fire can very much overwhelm that.
All the rest of these are really dependent. Actually, no, I think it beats fire.
Fire, bro, no. Like, you have to position Ursaluna so well. Plus the fact that you can just get overwhelmed. Like, you know, like I think they can play around it, but I think fire is definitely favored like 60. I would say 70-30. Just because the defensive core can get overwhelmed. The mixture of physical and special attackers. Victini is a Pokemon. Like, you know, Victini and Sun. P2's not handling that. P2 does not have the capacity for that. And I still think ones like Torkoal are bulky enough to handle Mega Galopany, but like, you know, Hazards can very much chip down Torkoal. So again, it's like, you know, slightly in Fire's favor, but normal can clap back at any point.
Because defensive core is quite good. As you might expect from normal, a very clean chart here. 1 loss, 1 win, 2 favorables, 2 unfavorably reliable.
Yeah, you lose a fighting, like that's obvious.
So I put it like kind of solidly somewhere in the middle of B tier.
The rest of them are neutral.
Is
Poison
probably the lower end of A tier. I think stuff can. I think it's favorable.
I think poison. Like thing is, poison gets overwhelmed very easily by like the HO types, but like when they're not running HO, poison pretty much wins. So I'd either put poison at like the bottom of A or like top of B. In my opinion,
fire can do, like, you can kind of bunker down a wall.
Yeah, I guess the combination of Pex, Mega Venusaur does give fire some trouble, but at the same time, like Victini kind of just cooks, you know, poison, because like you're running Alolan Mark, or you're just running Toxapex. To be fair, like Toxapex will just toxic. Fire is very prone to T spikes as well, so like, you know, I'd say slightly like in poison, not even slightly, 70-30.
Exact same reason I would put fighting as
fighting like
whenever I play poison, I see fighting like, yeah, this is very, very doable.
I don't know, man. Like again, like I said, Como can really, really handle it. You 1v1 Clodsire because you just taunt and it can't toxic you. The best thing it has is like praying it gets a poison jab, poison chance. Yeah, I like, it depends on if you have Weezing or not. And again, like Weezing isn't too common these days.
Flying is, I guess, advantageous. Yeah, I think so. You can toxic them. You can kind of bunker down against their stall or against their balance, which is
yeah, no, poison versus flying is just like wall versus wall, because like you can't toxic them, they can toxic you, and it's just a war of attrition mostly. Nice. Unless you're running like some offensive lander shit, then poison should be favored.
I do really appreciate that.
Psychic, yeah, Psychic is rough.
Like a moon
Because all they have to do is get rid of Alone and Muck and the game's kind of done.
Kind of wall it out.
Electric.
I'm gonna put neutral. I'm not sure what I said earlier. I think it loses to Dragon.
Dragon, yeah, again, Dragon just overwhelms the Poison's defensive core pretty hard, to be fair. Things like Dragon Dance by Excalibur, Clodsire can't handle that. Pex gets overwhelmed. Yeah.
Dragon's strong. It's just it kind of
Also Garchomp, you know,
hard,
not much else to say.
Beats Rock. I don't think
Beats Rock, yeah, I'd say so. Everything beats Rock. On most things.
Not offensive enough to break through Poison, and Poison.
I think if Poison faces like Rainwater, Poison beats Water very easily. I'm not gonna lie. There isn't really much counterplay to that. Cause like you get up a T-Spike or you just toxic spam everyone. Like you do have to break the opposing Water's Toxapex. You have to somehow get rid of that. But like, which does make the matchup a bit longer. But like eventually Poison just wins that. Cause like you can potentially get up hazards, whether it's with like Glamora or like Overquill or something. If you decide to run Overquill, it's still a decent pick. But like Muck is just better because you know Muck can actually handle psychic types a lot easier, or handle Tapu Lele a lot easier.
You can kind of sit there for days. I think it's more reliable than Electric, but it's not as like
I don't know. Like it's also a very skill based type as well.
Ties Electric, and Dragon is loot Fire can be scary actually. There's the Bug as well. So, it definitely poisons a nice. I guess you have like done that. I don't think I mentioned it here for Ice. Until its rank, I think that options just below normal.
Psychic, yeah, Psychic is also a B tier type.
End of B tier. Next up, we have the one everyone's waiting for. We have Rock.
Rock is in his own tier. Rock is the worst typing. I don't think we have to discuss too much about Rock. To be fair, it does have some interesting matchups for sure. Like you beat Ghost. I'm not gonna lie. I think Rock beats Ghost. Other than that, it's looking a bit rough. Other than like your type advantage matchups, like you're beating Bug, or like it's gonna be rough with Mega Scissor around, but or just Scissor in general. But you should be favored in Bug. You can beat Flying. It's a bit hard. You beat Ice Stole, and yeah, that's the only good matchup that you really have on Rock.
I see things like that. They're just really
because like I'm confusing SV Monotype Rock with NatDex Monotype Rock because. Like SV Monotype Rock, because there's limited options in every single type, Rock can actually come back and beat certain types. But right now, in NatDex, it does not have the capacity.
It's a earthquake.
And the last two types, I think these last two types are like S tier in my opinion. Like Water and Steel are very S tier types in my opinion.
Hard for me to admit that, but tier in the upper end of A tier.
I mean, fair enough if you're putting Steel in A tier. I'm not really going to complain too much. I just think Steel has very solid matchups against every single, against most types in the metagame.
Yeah.
And it still just makes it weirder that you put Fighting in B tier when, like, it's one of the best, like, Steel Lancers and also can beat Poison, Dark, you know, Ground. Like, just because Como is a Pokemon, I don't know how you put Fighting in B. It's a bit confusing. And then I'm guessing, and then he said there's gonna be two S tiers, so Water and S tier. Like we don't need anyone to tell you that Water's in S tier. So this is the end of KingKrabz's video. I've been here for quite a bit now, even though I have to go to work today. But yeah. So Water in S tier, Flying in S tier. That's alright to be honest. That's alright. So we're gonna be going over my tier list quickly. We're just gonna do this pretty quickly as well. Just to see. Bug is in B tier. I'll order them around. I'm just gonna slap them in. Dark in A tier, Dragon in A tier, Electric in A tier. Fairy, for the sake of it, I'll just put in like top of B tier for now. Fighting's definitely in A. Fire's in C. We're not gonna have a. I mean, arguably we could have a D tier for Rock because like Rock versus Fire is just like I'll just put Rock in D tier because like Fire is still like kind of there. Grass is probably at the bottom of B tier. Flying, I can put Flying in S tier. I kind of see the vision now. Ghost near the bottom of B. Arguably could put in C, but I'll respect Ghost a bit more. But I don't even know. I might just put Ghost in C. Ground in A for sure. Ice in B. Normal in B. Poison. Poison at the bottom of A, in my opinion. Psychic near the top of B. Steel in S. Water in S. I don't want to say C is looking lonesome. But yeah, I realistically do believe this is the type chart. The best type mainly always been water. Steel and flying are pretty interchangeable. Top of A tier, probably electric, then like fighting. I do think fighting is really on the come up now. Dragon, Dragon and Dark are pretty relative. Like the rest of these three together are pretty relative to one another. I do think fighting slightly has the edge on electric as well. Poison at the bottom here. Fairy at the top here. I would put like I'll put like Bug like near the middle. Bug versus Psychic and like Bug, Psychic, and Ice pretty relative to each other. Then you have like Grass and Ghost at the bottom, which makes sense. C for Fire and then D for Rock. So this is how I think my tier list would go. Obviously, KingKrabz's is entitled to his own opinion, of course. But yeah, I do think he slept on Fighting a bit too much though, because like the way that Como could reverse some of the matchups that Fighting has, definitely something to consider. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. I made it too long, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.